you're telling me that this priestess, that they basically alluded to the fact that she's the reason why our female lead Naksu is not being petrified like every other switched soul. And then she's so powerful that she's able to basically control this energy that I guess makes them petrified. And then all it takes is for Jimu to freaking ring a bell and she goes petrified. Like, you expect me to believe that, like, that's all it takes. Hi, welcome to the Dramasology podcast. My name is Emmy, and this is the podcast where I basically just talk about Asian dramas all day. I'm talking Korean dramas, Japanese dramas, Chinese, Taiwanese, Thai, and maybe even Turkish ones. The drama I'll be talking about in this episode is the 2022 Korean drama Alchemy of Souls. So if you've not seen it, maybe go watch it first before listening to this podcast, because I'm going to be spoiling stuff. So spoiler alert. Leave now if you've not finished drama. But if you're fine, if you've not seen the drama and you're fine with it being spoiled, then, sit back and listen and enjoy. Korean drama production companies do not do historical fantasy. That's something that China has a market on. It's something that they do often. We have xianxia, we have wuxia, xuanhuan. Those are genres that China does a lot of. So when I heard that this new show was coming out, made in Korea, I was like, wait, you're telling me Korea is making an historical fantasy? And yeah, I know some people might say, oh, well, there are shows like Kingdom and Mr. Queen, Scarlet Heart, Goblin, that they are considered historical fantasy. But are they really historical fantasy? Like, if you think about it, in those dramas, the characters have magical things happen to them, right? It's not like they practice magic. Magic is not a thing that they do in everyday life. So it's different from xianxia drama where, magic is something they practice. A good differentiation of this would be like, do the people of wherever this drama is set in, do they know about magic, right? Is magic a part of their everyday life? Or is it something that only one person knows exists? And that's the case with a lot of historical fantasy that Korea makes, right? They make a drama where it's not that everybody knows about magic. It's that one person has something magical happen to them. For example, in Scarlet Heart Rio, our main character, IU's character, time jumps, right, into the past. In Goblin as well, like, he gains immortality. Mr. Queen, he goes into someone else's body, right? Magic is not a practice there. It's almost an element of just plot device, if that makes sense. Whereas like xianxia, you have all worlds that know about magic, right? They practice magic on a daily basis. It's something people, normal people, ordinary folks can attain to. Right? They can attain to become immortal. They can attain to be higher beings with magic. That's the difference in what I will say the historical fantasy that China does and the one that Korea does. So when I heard that Korea was doing an actual historical fantasy, I was very excited. And it's understandable as to why they don't do historical fantasy. If you think about budget-wise, historical dramas are already difficult to make. They are expensive, they take a lot of time, a lot of set that modern-day dramas don't require. And so adding the fantasy element, right, adding CGI and CGI people, it's just extra cost that they don't need. So I understand where they're coming from. There's no point really making historical fantasy if you're you don't even know if that the drama will do well, right? You can't guarantee that the drama will do well. So that's why China does more of this, right? They have the budget. There are over 1 billion people in China, so they have the resources to invest in this kind of genre. And there's also this element of the more you do something, the more you have resources to do more of it. So China, for example, has done this xianxia thing over and over again. The clothing, the sets, everything, they're already there, right? They've done it so many times that, at this point, there's there's a we joke, a lot of us joke that, you know, China has basically killed the xianxia genre, because like it's like beating a dead horse at this point. They keep making it, but it's like really bad to watch, right? They are really, really bad shows that they bring out these days, right? And that's because China has invested so much into this genre that, I mean, it's even difficult for them. It's cheaper, I guess, to make a xianxia drama than it is to make other kinds of dramas, because it's resources that's already there. And so I get it. I get why Korea doesn't do historical fantasy. So that's why, again, I was very excited when I heard this was coming out. So Alchemy of Souls is a 2022 Korean drama starring my girl, Jung So Min, and Lee Jae Wook. I have watched Jung So Min in a lot of things. Like, I feel like I grew up with her because I watched her in Playful Kiss, which is funny because a few days ago I went back to check, like, just to like watch a few episodes of Playful Kiss, and I just realized just how like babyish her face looks. She has such a baby face. Like, she has not grown into her face in that drama, which is funny because when I was watching it for the first time back when it first came out, I did not notice that. But I guess I was also kind of young then, so we're on the same level. But anyway, I've also watched that in the drama we saw in Jang Uk, and then there's Because This Is My First Life, which is, I mean, everybody loves that drama. It's a really, really good drama. So, I mean, I've seen her in a few things, and I feel like I have watched her grow in a way. Whereas Lee Jae Wook is kind of new to the scene in the fact that he's not had that many shows in comparison, right? He's had good shows, but in comparison to how many shows that Jung So Min has done, how many dramas she's done, he's not done that many. I think my first drama with him was Search WWW, which was very good. I loved his character in that. And then I watched him again in Extraordinarily You, which was a completely different character from the one in Search WW, but was also a different character from the one with Goara, right? He's kind of a soft boy in those two dramas, whereas it's like a douche, like the worst kind of human being in Extraordinarily You. So, I mean, I've seen him in stuff, and I think I immediately like got an affinity for him. Like I felt like, oh yeah, I would like this actor. So it was very nice to see him being cast in this, because he has good chemistry with whoever he acts with. Even in Extraordinarily You, I was one of those people shipping him, even though he was toxic and he was like the worst kind of person. I was shipping him with the female lead because, I mean, the chemistry was very good, and Haru didn't really impress me in that drama, or the character that Rowan played didn't really impress me in that drama. So I was kind of shipping the toxic next. Like, there were people like me that were like, yeah, that's really what we want. And I guess I didn't know this because sometimes I don't pay attention. But he was in Memories of the Alhambra. I just realized that like a while ago, because it looks so different in that drama. So I didn't like place that he was in that drama, but he was in that drama. So anyway, like, again, he's also been acting for a while now, but not as long as Jung So Min in comparison. He's basically what we call a newbie actor, right? He's the youngest in the cast, usually. So, Alchemy of Souls is set in this fictional world. It's set in this fictional country called Daeho, where magic is normal. Magic is a part of everyday life, and people know about magic. I mean, it's to the point where there are basically institutions where people can go and practice magic. They are part of institutions where magic is taught. Like Songrim is one of those institutions, right? And you even have Chonbugwan, which is basically almost like an advisor, I guess, to the king. And that institution is a magical institution, right? The first episode opens up with this girl, right, going up against this group of mages that we don't know anything about anyone at this point, but we later find out that her name is Naksu. She's an assassin. We don't know her backstory, we don't know anything, but very quickly we understand how Alchemy of Souls works, right? We see her basically commit Alchemy of Souls and enters a new body, the body of Mudeok. And that's basically where our story starts, right? We are following Naksu on this journey as Mudeok, who is not who she seems, right? Mudeok, it seems like just a blind, helpless girl. And for a second there, Naksu like disregards her, right? She goes for the other person she sees, the other girl she sees. But we see that somehow, and to Naksu's shock as well, that she's somehow, performing this Alchemy of Souls with this blind girl. And it's very subtle. Like, if you're not paying attention, you probably won't notice that happened. But it's something that is important. Like, it's important to the story as it goes on. So what am I going to talk about, really? I mean, we've all watched the drama. So this is just a review of the drama, right? I'm going to talk about the pros, the things I liked about the drama, things I loved about the drama, right? And then I'll talk about the cons, things I really did not like about the drama, or things I even hated about the drama. And then I'll just give a wrap up. So now, the pros of this drama. What are the things I loved about this drama? First of all, the characters in this drama were well casted. Everybody was well casted. I felt like everybody was properly casted, and there was nobody that stuck out like a sore thumb, or like the acting wasn't up to par with everybody else. Most people were all good. My favorite character was Jang Uk, and I feel like that's a predictable answer to give, because he's the male lead character, so who else am I going to like if not him, right? It's very easy to say the male lead is your favorite, but he was my favorite. And it's not just because he was the male lead, but because he showed qualities that anybody would like. And he was interesting. He was not a boring male lead character. He had what we would say, he had substance. There was substance to his character and the way they characterized him. But before that, I have to talk about Mudeok. Or should I say Naksu? Now that we know that Mudeok is basically bouillon, right? But Mudeok, when I mean Mudeok, I mean Jung So Min, right? I'm talking about the character Jung So Min, not Naksu as in Go Yoo-jung. Although Go Yoo-jung is very good, and I'll talk about it later. But for this one, I'm referring to Jung So Min as Mudeok as Naksu. Naksu is a character that she's basically out of her element the minute she transfers into Mudeok, right? Because Bouillon has basically tightened control over her magic, over the energy gates that she has, right? And so she's unable to practice magic in this body. And this is a problem, because Naksu is she's an assassin that goes around killing people, right? The fact that she can't practice magic is probably the worst thing that could have ever happened to her. And it is in this place that she meets Jang Uk as well, right? And agrees to be his master. I liked her character because there's something we call character development, and she had a lot of that. She wasn't bad even at the beginning, even though they tried to make that seem like the case, that she was an assassin, she was killing mages. But really, her character was never too evil, was never too bad, it was not unredeemable. And so I enjoyed watching her basically fall in love, basically care about Jang Uk, because it was lovely because she was always following him, right? And I think unconsciously she got used to it, as we see in the episode where she gets the ice stone. She's unable to part with Jang Uk, right? And so I just loved seeing the dynamic between her and Jang Uk, because it was very interesting to watch her grow into that character that basically falls in love with this young master. Jang Uk, on the other, I feel like he's the reason she could fall in love. He was a whole different person. I don't think even Naksu would have fallen in love with that person, because Jang Uk has this shamelessness to him that's endearing. And so watching him basically be shameless, be open, he did not care whether she was Naksu the assassin. He would say whatever he wanted to say, and however she took it, she would take it like that, and he would not care. That dynamic was nice. And so I feel like Jang Uk's character, which is a very lovable character, is the kind of character that you have no choice but to fall in love. And there's this thing about Lee Jae Wook. He didn't have this thing. I don't think he had this characteristic when he was playing Baekhyun in Extraordinarily You. But he has this downward smile that's the most beautiful thing in the world. It's not a shy smile, but it's, I don't know how to explain it, but you guys, if you watch the drama, you know what I'm talking about. He doesn't smile fully most of the time. He has this downward smile that his lips kind of curve down and then go up at the sides, which was the cutest thing to see. And so I feel like Lee Jae Wook made the character more lovable. Probably he was the best person to have played this character. It was well casted. But yeah, enough of those two. Let's go on to the real MVP. The real lover in our hearts, which is the crown prince, go on. Now that's a character I feel like everybody loved. And I think the reason why his character was so lovable, or why people really liked him, was because no one was expecting him to be a good character. When we were first introduced, he seems like this pompous douchebag of a crown prince. He seemed like someone that our male lead would have problems with. He seemed like that person that would, have this taunting attitude towards him, right? And we see that in the scene where Jang Uk picks up the sword and mistakenly points it at, or has no control over how he's pointing it, and points it at the crown prince. And the crown prince is immediately like furious, like, how dare you? Like, you're just this little fry and you dare to point your sword at me, that kind of thing, right? And so we expect immediate, like, oh, this guy, we're just going to like cuss him throughout. He's going to be like the villain. He's going to be the one that, will try to steal the female lead. And not in like the second lead kind of steal the female, like in the villain kind of steal the female. But almost immediately, as the scene is ending, right, when they're basically fighting over who's going to drink the toilet water, right, he's Eunuch, or is he Enoch, right, the guy that wears black next to him, which is also another great character, because you can see just how much he loves the crown prince and how much he's probably been with him for a long time, and maybe probably even grew up together, right, because usually, like in the olden days, like this Eunuchs, they grow up with, like, they are taken when they're young, and they basically serve for life. And usually they serve the same person for life. So his Enoch turns to him and he's like, oh, let it go, curb your anger. And he like basically turns to the eunuch and he's like, I mean, if you wanted me to let it go, you should have said something a lot earlier, right? And it was that moment I realized that, oh, this character is not going to be as bad as he seems, because that moment, that scene, or that comment from him made us realize that he has this sense of knowing where the line should be drawn, and like he's not the kind of person to take things too far, right? Because I think it feels like it has gone too far even for him. And so I guess it's something that if his Enoch had like try to calm him down, like publicly, in the sense that like his Enoch is doing it for the show, right? His Enoch is saying it to give him a chance to get out of it. And so he turns to his Enoch and he's like, you should have said something a lot earlier, right? Because if he had said something a lot earlier, I would have given him an out a long time ago, before they got to that point where everybody was basically embarrassed about the situation. Then another thing I liked was that scene and then consequent scenes with the crown prince kind of shows that he's got character, like he's got a personality. Oftentimes when they have second leads, and I mean, I guess in this case, he's the third lead, and maybe that's why they could flesh out his character more. Unlike Soyo, who is kind of almost a little flat. But the Crown Prince has character. You can almost sense what his life is like and what his dislikes are like. Like, he seems like you can, if they're like, okay, tell me something about this character other than the fact that he loves the female lead. And then you could go in and be like, oh, he's level-headed, right? He doesn't take things to the extreme. I mean, you can even argue that he's kind and like, he's pragmatic. He's not too hot-tempered, or, like he understands his duty and he takes it seriously. And he has this poise that, oh, he would actually make a good king, which is very unlike his father, because his father is just trash. I mean, I've never seen a worse character. I mean, for a second there, I was like, how was this Crown Prince even raised right? Because his dad is so trash. Like, I've never seen a more scared, cowardly, like, king. I mean, I've seen some, like in some dramas, usually Chinese dramas. The emperors in Chinese dramas are usually like the worst. I think the best one I've seen is like the emperor in Joy of Life, right? But usually, like, the emperor is usually the worst person, right? And so that holds true for this drama. The king is like this scared little child that like can't do anything without any help. Like he's always shaking, and So even when they tell him about the king's star, the crown prince was the one to tell his father, like, aren't you listening to what Master Lee is saying? He isn't saying that the king's star would threaten your throne. He's basically saying he would basically curb this rampant use of Alchemy of Souls, right? But, the king is partly deaf to that. All he hears is like king. He heard king in the word. Like, if he had called it something different, like the morning star or something, he would not feel as threatened. But because there's king in the world, he's like, what the hell? Like, I have to find this person and kill this person. I feel like that's his thought process. This does not mean he's infallible though, because at the end of season 1, right, he basically lets Jinmu run free, right, in the sense that he could have done something, had Jinmu imprisoned when everybody was looking for Jinmu, right? He could have had Jinmu imprisoned and, basically would have been done with Jinmu. But it was because he let Jinmu run rampant that, like, Naksu got petrified, right? And so, you have that scene where they're basically telling him what happened to Naksu, right? Oh, I assume that's it. They don't say anything and there's no words, but you could see it in his face that he felt regret about it. That he felt that, if he had done something about Jinmu earlier, maybe what happened to Naksu would not have happened, right? I feel like that's what that scene was supposed to show. But you never know. Like, there's something about writers. When you give them an inch, take a mile. In the sense that you don't know how season 2 is going to be. I hope to God, right, that they keep his character constant. In the sense that they don't like do a 360 on his character. Because drama writers, or not, I shouldn't be picky or prejudiced against drama writers, just writers in general. Sometimes they walk with their heads upside down. I don't know how, I don't know why, but maybe for effect, or they run out of things and they just keep going. They will take a character that's well loved and they will basically butcher the character to the point where you're like, are you sure this is a continuation of season 1? Usually Korean dramas don't have that problem because they end it in a season, but now that Netflix is in the game, everybody's suddenly about season 2 and season 2 and season 2. So, let's hope they keep his character the same, because if they do, I'll be very, very glad, honestly. 2 other characters I really enjoyed watching were Maid-Servant Kim and Master Lee. I really liked Maid-Servant Kim because I felt like her goodness shined through almost in Jang Uk. She's basically the one who raised Jang Uk, right? Because Jang Uk is basically a trash father, and she really, you could tell she did a good job. And you could when I watch a scene where she's in, there's something about her that's just so beautiful. I know she's a very pretty. I think she's the character I would consider the prettiest in the show, because there's something about her that's just so elegant and beautiful, and you can kind of see where Jang gets his elegance as well from. That's who raised him, right? And so she was never overly mean to Mudeok or mean to people. She always had a good heart, even to Jinmu. I remember there was a scene where she was in the office with Park Jin and Jinmu was also there, and she basically offers us snacks, right? Because I think Jinmu mentioned something about how the snacks in that house, in Jang Uk's house, was the best, right? And so she's like, oh, okay, I'll pack you some. Oh, no, you can have some. And Park Jin is like, what? No, right? And it's still that goodness. She can't see the evil in people. And even for a second there, I'm pretty sure Jinmu smiled before Park Jin was like, hell nah. You're not getting any of her snacks. It's not gonna happen, right? And so there's that goodness in her that shines through in Jang Uk. Then the other character I really liked was Master Lee. Unfortunately, they didn't do much with his character, but I just liked knowing he was there, right? There was something about the way he carried himself. And it could also be because I remember him from Vincenzo, right? He's the chef in Vincenzo. So I recall how much I liked him in that drama. And so maybe that's why I'm projecting that onto him in this drama. But I liked the actor. And so his character was really nice to see, because it was it was the only other person that knew about Naksu. And I felt like he was this balancing force for, Naksu. Not that she knew it, because she didn't know he knew, but I felt his character was this entity of this element of he's a very strong character and he just chooses not to do anything, right? He's all about drinking his chase tea and stuff. Although chase tea doesn't seem to work very well when it comes to Maid-Servant Kim. So that was very interesting to see, and having him fall in love. And if I was going to fall in love with any character, if there was going to be a woman, right, that you're going to fall in love with, it should be Maid-Servant Kim. She's very beautiful, right? So I got it. I got that thing where he basically asking himself, is the chest not working? And I'm like, it's shocking that this is the first time it's happening to me, but if it was going to be the first time, Mesa Wan Kim is definitely the prime, like, woman to fall in love with. And poor Master Lee, Mesa Wan Kim has no idea. She has no clue. She's just being nice because she's nice to everybody. But here he's like falling in love with a scarf and shit. Like, it's very funny. Now, on to the next thing I really like about the drama is the CGI, right? I mean, Netflix put a lot of money into this and it shows, right? Studio Dragon is also, like, good at this CGI thing, right? They've been doing a lot of shows for Netflix, and so the CGI was well done. I won't praise the CGI too much because it wasn't to the point where I felt like they could mess it up. The CGI wasn't too heavy regardless. In the sense that, like, if you look at, like, Chinese xianxia, they have beasts, like mythical beasts, and so that's where a lot of the budget goes for CGI. It's not really the minute, like, spell making, hand waving thing that really causes, like, the budget to, like, blow. It's really those, like, otherworldly beasts that they add. And so, like, Alchemy of Souls never has one of those. I mean, it has I think it's the golden fish, and the CGI was a little spotty on that, let's be honest, but generally the CGI was quite good for what it was trying to do, right? Everything seemed like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, the mages are really, like, fighting with, like, energy. Like, that's what it really seemed like that. And so I was really appreciative, and it immersed me into the episodes. And then the final thing I will mention that was a pro about this drama was the story. This was a well-written story in the sense that the overarching idea was very well done. From the country to the institutions in power to the mages to, like, the masters and, like, members of the governing, like, mage party, like the, like, overarching governing, because you had those scenes where, like, mages from other places would come and basically convene in this council, and so all that was nice to see. It seemed like a well-formed country, like a well-formed story about this country that actually could exist, right? They had little details about, like, governing and which parties involved with which activity. Like, Sejugon and a lot of medical stuff, right? And so that was very lovely. The story was well done, right? Everything was beautiful as well. Like, I'm talking about the fashion. Like, oh my god, like, Choyeon wears some of the best outfits in this drama. Like, she rocked. All her outfits were just the bomb. Same for Jewel, the courtesan. They really dressed them up well. Even the singer in the one scene where they are singing non-stop by Oh My Girl, her outfit was just beautiful. I just loved it. The female outfits more than the males. The male's outfit, like the male outfits, like the Sungrim outfits, they didn't really impress me as much as, like, the female outfits and, like, Choyeon's outfit, or even the head of Jinyo one, the Mama Jin. Even her outfits were, like, okay, for her stature and her, like, place in power, it made sense. Everything fit the characters in that sense. Choyeon wore a lot of pink, peach, things like that, whereas, like, Mama Jin wore a lot of, like, white, right, to really show their characters and, like, what they represent. So I was all about that. It was well produced, well budgeted. Like, they put money into this and it shows, and I appreciate that because it means that they care about this drama, and so I have to care about it, or that makes me care about this drama as well. And so that was very nice. Now, onto the cons. That is things I didn't really like, or things I just generally hated. There were a lot of plot holes. You might not feel the same way as I do, and you might think, like, this is a really cohesive drama and everything works well. And for the most part, it does. But there were little things that, like, bugged me because I watch a lot of dramas, and so I notice things like this. Because, you end up comparing it to other dramas you've seen. The first one was Buyon's disappearance, right? That's a plot hole I couldn't rationalize, in the sense that I couldn't come up with what the writers we thought about that disappearance. So what I mean is that, like, okay, so Buyeon disappears, right? And then we see the scene where she's with Jinmu and her stepdad in the river, and she's basically trying to, I don't know what she's trying to do, maybe give the ice stone to, like, the gods of the sky or something. She's trying to do something with the ice stone, right? Basically make it disappear, right? And that's where they lose her, right? Jinwoo pushes her into the water when he realizes what she's doing. But I can't help but think of how they got to that point, in the sense that, is it that she walked out of the house, her house, and then stumbled onto her dad, her stepdad, and Jinman was like, okay, yeah, like they were like, oh, let's go find the ice stone, and she was like, oh yeah, right, without telling the mom, or like, because back in those days, right, women were chaperoned, right? I mean, it's the 16th century, I don't know what era the whole is supposed to like have existed, but women didn't just like go out unchaperoned, right? So I'm not sure at what point the mom realized she was missing, right? Because never did it seem like the mom was resentful to the stepdad or Jinmo, right? She wasn't. She was hopeful that her husband, the stepdad of Boyeon, would find her, and she was believing of Jinmo when he said he'd help her find the daughter. So obviously she didn't know about this part of the whole disappearance. So I wasn't really sold on how like she got together with Jinmu and the stepdad and basically went on this adventure with them. But that's just me. That could just be me, right? Then I think another plot hole I found, and I guess it's not really a plot hole, just bad writing, and I feel like a lot of people had this issue, especially when I was like going through my drama list, is Jang Uk's character and Boyeon's character. Jang Uk's character first. Jang Uk is the dad of Jang Uk, right? He's the head, supposedly. No, he is the head of Jeonbugwan, right? Before he goes missing. And he's, I guess, basically still the head, even though he's missing. Now, maybe for 2 episodes or so, they kind of tease the fact that he's coming back. We kind of see him with the hooded jacket or the hooded, like, clothing, right? And so they like tease about the fact that he's coming back, and he went on a mission. Like there was a reason he left. There was a reason he disappeared, right? And then they bring him back, right? This is a character that has been gone for 20 something years. He's been gone he's been gone throughout Jang Uk's whole life. And then they bring him back and basically kill him he's dead in 2 seconds, right? He sacrifices himself for, I don't know what. It's just, convenient plot device. There's something that needs to be fixed, and he's the strongest one that can fix it. And that was kind of annoying to me. Because also, I wish I had seen more of the scene with him and his son, right? Jang Uk, I feel like that's the scene we would have loved to see. Just a few. Even it was just an episode of him being alive, right? Before they killed him off. but maybe the character that plays Jang Uk, maybe he was still shooting the King of Tears, Ibangwon. There's a drama, he has his own drama that he's shooting. So maybe that they coincided and they could not have him on both. And so budget wise and actor appearance wise, they couldn't have him, and so they had to kill him off quickly. But other than that, if that was the reason, okay, I guess that makes sense. But if not, if that was actually written in, that's really bad writing, honestly. Made no sense, and they should not have built his character up as somebody that was powerful, right? Just to kill him that quickly. And I have that same issue with how Boyeon ended up. You're telling me that this priestess, that they basically alluded to the fact that she's the reason why our female lead Naksu is not being petrified like every other switched soul, and then she's so powerful that she's able to basically control this energy that I guess makes them petrified, because she's such a powerful priestess, right? Choyeon mentions this, right? And there's a sense of she's even more powerful than her mom. She's the most powerful priestess that seems to have ever existed, as powerful as the lady that followed Seogyeong, right? That, I think her name is Soran, right? They made her seem as powerful as that character, right? That she had this extraordinary abilities, extraordinary power, even though she was blind. And then all it takes is for Jinmu to freaking ring a bell and she goes petrified. You expect me to believe that that's all it takes. I guess she's not so powerful then, right? And so that was my issue. They built up her character to the point where you felt like it would be very difficult to kill her off, right? And I guess I get it. Jung So Min is not coming back for season 2, and there's this sense of the real world is entering the drama in that sense, and so I guess they had to kill off the character that is Boyeon so that Naksu, the original actress played by Go Yoon Jung, could come back. I get it, right? But still, it just didn't sit right with me. I felt like they could have handled it differently. Maybe even just leave her alive and just never show Boyeon in season 2, right? Because Jung So Min cannot be involved in the series. She's no longer involved, right? But just to kill her off like that with a bell, Like, I don't believe that. It's bad writing. And so I was a little pissed about that, right? Then the third con I have, and I guess still the same one issue, which I guess is all bad writing, is Dango and Choyeon's sudden love line. When you want to introduce a love line, right, you have to basically tease the audience with like a few like glances here and there, like the guy glances at the girl, Dango glances at Choyeon, just so we get an idea that, oh, okay, he's in love with her, right? But for the first few episodes, this does not come up. Even when she's preparing to marry him, like when they first meet, like the very first scene where we get all members of the 4 seasons together, there's never a moment where Dango like gives her like googly eyes. I feel like they should have had a googly eye there, right? Because we needed that build up to suddenly like believe that Dango was in love with her later on, right? But the writers, for some reason, took their sweet time into like showing this. And so when they finally showed it, it was almost like, well, this came from nowhere. We had no way of expecting this because they never gave us any hints. And I guess that's rather than bad writing, that's just pacing. It was really bad pacing in that sense. But I guess the romance still works. They're both very attractive people. And who doesn't like watching attractive people like be in love, right? So it wasn't a bad romance line or a bad love line. It was just badly paced in the show. And I'm so excited for season 2, guys. Like, I am excited, mainly because I am one of those people. I am in the faction that believes Go Yoon Jung would do amazing in season 2. Like, I saw her in the preview for season 2, and I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, she's so pretty, she's so beautiful that I can almost imagine her with Jang Uk already. And I'm really looking forward to that dynamic, the first few episode dynamic of him not knowing what she looks like, because the only person that I think knows what she looks like is Park Jin and Soyul and Hoyeom. So the Crown Prince and Jang Uk don't know what she looks like in that body, like the original Naksu. So it's going to be very interesting to just see the relationship and how it plays out in the first few episodes. And I also, like I said, like I'm hoping they don't mess up the Crown Prince's character, because writers can be crazy sometimes, right? So let's hope, fingers crossed on that. So overall, this drama was very good, right? Again, I said it, like Korea tends to avoid some genres, either for political reasons like BL, that's boys love, or for like budget reasons, historical fantasy. It's very expensive to make, right? But I'm of the opinion that like if they could just do those two, especially BL, I had this thing about BL that was like, if Korea would just please make more BLs, they would like be the best. They would overtake the market. Right now Thailand has the market share on BL. They make so much, and there are some really, really good BLs. But I remember thinking that, oh my god, this is something that if Korea decided to focus on, because there are some good Korean BL, like Semantic Error. Oh my god, Semantic Error is amazing. That when it came out, I was like, yeah, you see, Korea is so good at this. Where Eislinger is another really good one that just like really, really good. And like I'm just like, if they would, and I'm going to do a review of those two dramas one day, but if they would just do more, they would like blow it out of the park. Like it's going to be a non-contentious issue that like they are the best. So I hope that like the success of Alchemy of Souls can mean more historical fantasies of this nature. And if it does, like I'm here to like watch all of them. Honestly, I'm like going to be one of the first people that's like clicking, because that is my favorite genre, or one of my favorite genres, right? And I think it's also because historical fantasy, if done right, in the sense that if it's like Alchemy of Souls, it kind of prevents against tragedy, in the sense that it prevents what happened in like Scarlet Heart Rio or Mr. Queen, in that it's going to end the way you expect, because it can use magical elements to basically fix plots in ways that would not ordinarily work if it was just minor magic thrown in, right? Like in Scarlet Heart Rio, Ayu's character dies, right? Like it's a kind of thing that if it was real, like historical fantasy, you could kind of walk around that and bring her back, like they are basically doing with Go Yoon Jung's character, right? They are basically bringing her from the dead, even though we also are burned, right, at the stake, or burn, like they burnt her body in like the square, and everybody saw it, and we were like, so how are they gonna bring her back? Like, you know, but because it's fantasy, real fantasy that involves like spells and real magic, they're able to like basically throw that into the pile of it's fantasy, just deal with it, like it's part of the show, right? Like just fantasy allows things like that to happen, right? Whereas other like historical fantasy Korean dramas don't have that element. And so I look forward to that because it prevents like this tragedy from happening. I don't have to like be on my seat of like, is our character going to die? Because I mean, there's no real magic, and like if she dies, she's gone. And so we come to the end of the podcast. This is my very first time doing this. So, it's a lot of stress just talking to yourself. But I think I enjoyed this episode. So let me know what you think at facebook.com/Dramasology. I mean, I'm on all platforms. Like, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Reddit, I'm on Instagram. Like, just pick your poison and like, let me know what you think. And if there's an episode or like a drama you'd like for me to cover, I'd be more than happy to. Just let me know on those platforms. I also have a website, dramasology.com. It's good, basically, just if you want to see a list of all the episodes I have on there. But then, I mean, if you're using Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or any of those like podcasting, like streamers, you find me there as well. Thank you so much for listening and have a nice day. Bye.